Limerick Schools Board of Education meeting number 1530 is now called to order. As a note, in order to follow the St. Louis County Department of Public Health 2019 novel coronavirus order for business and individual guidelines, we are social distancing here with a small number of patrons in attendance, and also live streaming that can be viewed by the public on our district's YouTube channel. 2.0, Dr. Lake, do we have any changes to the agenda?
We do not.
Okay, that being said, may I have a motion to approve the agenda as presented?
So moved.
Second. Motion by Jen, second by Matt. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes 7-0. We'll move now to the Pledge of Allegiance. As you're able, please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Now we'll move to 4.0, which is we will receive the election returns and declare results from the recent election. It was duly noted that in the manner providing for the annual school board election held on Tuesday, April 6, 2020, notice of said election was given in accordance with the laws of the state of Missouri. The board thereupon received the report of said election from stlouis.totalvote.com and ascertained the results of said election to be Mike Shamia receiving 3,329 votes, or 50.05%, and Megan Vetter receiving 3,322 votes, 49.95%. So I have a motion that Mike Shamia and Megan Vetter be declared elected directors of the Limerick Schools Board of Education for 3 years as indicated.
So moved.
Motion by Karen, second.
Second.
Second by Christie. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 7-0. So then we'll move to the oath of office. That'll be done by Matt Alonso, Board Secretary. I guess we're standing up there.
That is a long track.
That is a long.
Stand by, Mike.
What's that?
That's going to go out there. Yeah.
All right, raise your right hand and repeat after me. I state your name. Do solemnly swear. Or affirm that I will support. The Constitution of the United States. And the Constitution of the State of Missouri. And that I will. To the best of my ability. Faithfully and impartially. Discharge the duties. Of a member. Of the Limerick School Board of Education. Of the State of Missouri. According to law. So help me God. Congratulations.
Take your goodies and go.
Now I'm going to go sit back.
I know.
All right, we'll move to 6.0, and at this point, Dr. Lake, Superintendent of Schools, will serve as temporary chairman for the purpose of electing the president and vice president.
Thank you, Mike. As Mike mentioned, I am going to serve as temporary chairman as we reorganize the Board of Education at this time. At this time, do I have a nomination for president of the Board of Education?
Yes, I so nominate Mike Shamia as the president.
Do I have a second? Second by Jen, and that was a nomination by Kathy. Any comments, discussions before we take a vote? Okay. All those in favor for Mike Shamia as Board of Education President, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Now, at this time, I would like to ask for a nomination for Vice President of the Board of Education.
I would like to nominate Jennifer Miller.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mike Tishalis and nomination by Matt Alonso. Any comments before we vote? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Now, at this time, I'm going to turn the meeting back over to President Mike Shamia.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Link. And now we'll move to nominations for secretary. Do I have a nomination for Secretary of the Board of Education?
I would like to nominate Christy Watts,
Nomination by,
Secretary to the Board of Education.
sorry, Mike. Nomination for Christy Watts, do I have a second?
Second.
Nomination by Mike, second by Kathy. Any questions, comments? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, congratulations, Christy, Secretary, thank you. Then we'll move to the election of treasurer. Do I have a motion for treasurer of the Board of Education?
I would like to nominate Mike Tishless.
Nomination for Mike Tischer, do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Megan, her first second, there you go. Any comments, questions? Okay, Mike Tischer for treasurer of the Board of Education, all in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Okay, motion passes. Congratulations. And then I think we'll have you guys switch, if that's okay? Spots, yeah. Thank you. While they're doing that, we'll move to 6.05, which is MSBA delegate and alternate. So each year, the Lindbergh Board appoints an MSBA delegate and alternate. It's been Christy Watts and Mike Tishless for some time. Christy currently serves as the delegate, and Mike serves as the alternate. And I'm looking for a motion to appoint Christy Watts to remain in that position, and we thank you guys for all the work that you've done in this area, and for Dr. Mike Tishless to continue serving as the alternate. Do I have a motion for that?
So moved.
Okay, motion by Jen. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Matt. Okay. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? All right. Motion passes 7-0. Thank you guys again for all the work you do. I mean, that's a lot of work, and you guys do it well. So, and thank you for retaining those spots. We'll move to 7.0, which is special recognition. So I'll introduce, I believe behind me here, Miss Eric Cochran, principal of Lindbergh High School, to present the special recognitions. And I don't even know if he can hear me, but. Oh. Good to go? All right.
At the high school. We have some students here to celebrate. We also have support staff person of the year and our teacher of the year in attendance tonight. I'm going to start with the students. And this year I decided I wanted to highlight a couple of student athletes because to me, one of our greatest accomplishments this year during this pandemic is to also be able to have some of our student athletes enjoy their seasons through very difficult times. And if you'd have told me that we were going to be able to have wrestling during a pandemic, I would have said you were crazy. But not only did we have a season, we had significant accomplishments made by the two students we're going to highlight this evening. So I'm going to start with our freshman, and that's Audrey Shear. Audrey, in her first year, is being recognized as the first ever girls wrestling state medalist. For as long as we have this program, Audrey will forever after be the first person ever to win a medal in that sport. We've only had that sport for a couple of years, and she is our athlete who broke that glass ceiling, and we're really excited for her. She's also a very good student, and Audrey finished second in state this year. And if you saw the picture of her standing on the podium, you will know that she is very hungry to get that first place finish. So congratulations to Audrey. Audrey, you want to say something?
Thank you.
All right, you're welcome. And then on the other side, we have a senior, and our senior wrestler tonight is JP Homefeld. JP, I've been watching JP wrestle now for 4 years, and JP also has a very significant accomplishment that we're celebrating tonight. JP has actually been a state medalist all 4 years that he's been a student athlete at Lindbergh High School, and he is the first person ever to accomplish that. And so that's a tremendous feat on his behalf. Outside of that, he also has carried, right now he has a 4.08 GPA, so he really puts the student and student athlete, and we could not be more proud of what he has done both in the classroom and out on the wrestling mat. So congratulations, JP. Anything you want to say? Their coach is here as well. Ben Smith is here with us. He joined us to celebrate these two athletes. JP, you have anything you want to say?
No, just it was fun wrestling for Lindbergh and being a part of the program.
Great, thank you. Congratulations. All right, next I'd like to highlight our support staff person of the year, and that is Allie Wallner. Allie is the academic monitor at Lindbergh High School. She works directly with students who are struggling academically, and that has been more important to the work we do this year than probably any year. It's important every year, but this year in particular, because we've had so many students dealing with this new learning environment, sometimes virtual, sometimes in person, Allie has been the linchpin to help us target and support some of our students who are struggling with that transition. I like to say about Allie, she's that perfect blend of tough love with the tough, but also the love. And those students feel that from her. She knows when to say, hey, you need to get some things done, but she also knows when to put her arm around them and to nurture them towards greater success. In addition to that, Allie is a coach for us. She coaches 3 sports at the high school. She is she's a boys soccer coach. She is a girls basketball coach, and she's our varsity girls soccer coach as well. And they had a nice win tonight against Melville. So congratulations on that. And just one quick story to highlight Allie's accomplishment. So we had a blackout, we had a power outage, I guess, on Friday. And this just exemplifies what Allie does. I came around the corner. We had no real plans for how to handle dismissal of students whose parents showed up early. And of course, Allie is the person standing at the door, taking names as parents were starting to arrive. That's just the type of employee she is. She is always willing to do a little bit extra. Nobody ever has to even ask her. She's always there stepping up to support the school in every way she can. And I'm really excited that actually next year she's going to be a permanent member of our teaching staff in the PE department. So we are just thrilled to celebrate Allie Wallner tonight as our support staff person of the year.
Thank you. I couldn't do without the support from the admin and teachers and counselors. They make my job very easy. This year has been a challenge, but everyone stepped up and kind of has helped everyone. So without the support from the admin, we wouldn't be doing what we do. So thank you for this honor.
Congrats, Allie. Okay, finally, I want to celebrate our teacher of the year. And this is actually, hot off the presses because we added a celebration that only a few of us knew was going to happen before this recognition tonight. But our teacher of the year, and as of today, officially, the Lindbergh Schools District Teacher of the Year is Dan Doherty. Dan has been teaching at the high school now. I think this is year 7, Dan. That seems about right. And Dan has When I think of Dan, the thing that stands out to me first is the picture of him. We had a student council convention just a couple of years ago where all the schools from around the state came and joined in this convention, and we were hosting. And Dan volunteered his time, dressed up. The theme was Harry Potter, so Dan dressed up in a wizard garb and was our potions master for the evening, showing off his knowledge of chemistry to all the students. And students from all over the state were flocking to his demonstration to watch him threaten to set the school on fire, which fortunately he did not do. But if you know anything about Dan, Dan is brilliant. He is that's one of the reasons why he is so popular, because the students know that he is a content expert. He is also a very skilled practitioner, knows how to teach, knows how to individualize instruction. But more than anything else, and anybody that knows Dan would say this, whether it be a colleague, whether it be a student, Dan is all about relationships. Dan is the type of teacher that when you go into his classroom and you are a student, you know he cares about you because he tells you that. He is not shy to tell you as a student, hey, I care about you. And they feel that. He demonstrates that every single day that he works with our students. And I could not think of a better person, not only to represent the many great teachers that we have at the high school, but the many amazing teachers that we have throughout the district. So very proud to not only have Dan as the Lindbergh High School Teacher of the Year, but also as the Lindbergh Schools District Teacher of the Year. Dan Doherty.
Thanks so much, Eric. Still trying to soak in all of the District Teacher of the Year, but I'm just so grateful, so honored. Thanks to everyone who's been around for me to learn from and get support from. But thank you.
And thank you, everyone, for taking a moment to celebrate these outstanding people that represent our high school.
And I'd just like to say congratulations to all the recipients. And, you know, this year came with its challenges, but there's still just some extraordinary stuff going on in each and every school. So congratulations to you guys. Now we'll move to 8.0, which is special resolutions and accommodations. We do have 8.01, an individual resolution for Karen Schuster. So Karen, we're going to ask you to come forward. Unless she's left already. Front and center. Yes. Okay, anybody who knows Karen, this resolution is for her, and she's put in timeless effort and done extraordinary work for the district. You're an extraordinary person. I just want to first off thank you personally for what you've done for me. Coming on the board in the position I hold now. So it means a whole lot to me, and thank you very much for that. Now I'll read your resolution. Resolution of appreciation for Karen Schuster. Whereas Karen Schuster was elected to the Lindbergh Schools Board of Education in April 2012 and faithfully served students, staff, and families in the Lindbergh community as a Board of Education Director for 9 years, of which she served 3 years as board secretary, 3 years as board president, and 1 year as board vice president. And whereas Karen additionally served on the Lindbergh Schools PTO and PTG boards, worked with bandstanders, was a concession volunteer, served on the Lindbergh Football Association fundraising committee, and served as Interact Club Rotary Liaison. She has also served on the Special School District Governing Council, volunteered as treasurer for Props R, L, and G, and served on the Character Council, Citizens Advisory Budget Committee, and Lindbergh Schools Foundation Board. Furthermore, Karen served on multiple Board of Education advisory committees. And whereas Lindbergh Schools is a better district as a result of Karen's contributions to the Board of Education. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Board of Education extends their sincere thanks to Karen for her dedication and service during her 3 terms as Lindbergh Schools Board of Education Director.
Karen, we have a plaque for you, just to memorialize your service and time on the board. So here you go. I know Mike said a few words, but I'm going to say a few words as well. So Karen has served her community above and beyond. And, you know, when I came to this community 3 years ago, I had that direct conversation with Karen. You know, your board president is who you interact with the most, and I just want to say your leadership during that transition was phenomenal. I believe we have set the district in the right direction, and that was because of the 7 of you and the vision you brought and your leadership during this transition. You've gone above and beyond, and I just want to say thank you for your service. And I'm glad that you took my call back when I missed your call because I was doing dishes. Quick story, she called to offer me a job, and I missed her call. I knew they were going to call and tell me I got it or I didn't, but I was doing dishes, and they were all waiting to offer me the job together. So Karen just got a new friend, and I'm just so thankful for you and everything that you've done for this community, and you believe green and gold. So thank you for your service.
We're at the one more picture. One more picture.
Yeah, right there. Right there.
Let me get out of the way.
Okay, yeah.
I know you guys like really long speeches, so I'm gonna try to make you happy.
Right.
Okay. No, you said a lot of the things that I wanted to just share, and I'm not gonna assume that all of y'all really want to hear what I have to say, but I do want to say a few things just about the team that I've been able to serve with over the last 9 years. I've lived in the district practically my whole life, and I don't remember some of those things that Mike read. This has certainly been one of the biggest honors, and quite humbling to think that this committee trusted me with that role for 9 years. And in particular, I think there are times that are really challenging. Obviously, the last year showed us that, right? I think the most daunting thing that I did as a board member was participate in the superintendent search. The significance to our students and to our school community and really the community as a whole is just huge. And I can tell you, I've never looked back and had any ounce or drop of regret on that. That was really scary, but it was also a really wonderful experience. And Tony, as a leader, I think you are courageous. You challenge people. Dare I say, you force them to pivot, to try new things and grow. And it is so evident in this district. And Tara and Brian, you guys put incredible teachers in front of our students and give them curriculum and the resources they need to help our students learn. And it's been amazing working with you. Big breath. Okay, I'm gonna get choked up. Joelle, I love your numbers, lady. I might be the only one here, I don't know, but I love your numbers and your analysis. I'm gonna miss it. But I think what the community really needs to know is not only are you an amazing CFO, but you totally get the stewardship piece of handling public money. And our district is really lucky to have you. And Beth, working with you, I will never sound as eloquent again, clearly. as I'm saying tonight. Beth knows how to tell a story and share information and let everyone know what the district is up to. Also amazing. So it has been an honor to work with each one of you, my friends, and it is bittersweet, but I'm gonna have a little bit more free time, and I'm looking forward to that. So thank you all very much.
And thank you. I mean, I think the honor's on this side, and just make sure you don't change your number because I may need it, so thank you. All right, so may I have a motion to approve that resolution as presented?
So moved.
Motion by Jen, second by Kathy. We'll do a roll call here. Mike Shamia, yes. Jennifer Miller?
Yes.
Christy Watts?
Yes.
Dr. Mike Tishless?
Yes.
Matt Alonso,
Yes.
Dr. Kathy Kellogg-Lorenz. And Megan Vetter. All right, motion passes 7-0. All right, we'll move to 8.02, consent resolutions and commendations. We have 3 this evening. 8.0201 is the Administrative Professionals Day, which is April 21st. 8.0202 is National Teacher Day, very important day, May 4th. 8.0203, School Nurses Day, May 12th, and God knows this year has been challenging for them. So those are our 3 for this evening. So may I have a motion to approve the 3 resolutions as were presented?
So moved.
Motion by Matt, second by Christie. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion carries 7-0. All right, we'll move now to 9.0, which is citizen comments regarding agenda items. We do have some folks signed up for citizens' comments, but nothing regarding tonight's agenda items. So a little later in this evening's meeting, then we'll get an opportunity for non-agenda items. 10.0, communications. 10.01, calendar of events. So our newly elected secretary, Christy Watts, will you please review the calendar of events?
I will. Now, Matt did not give me any training, so this might be rough. It looks as though mostly it's a lot of our committee meetings, with the highlight of Administrative Assistant Day on April 21st, the highlight of High School Prom, April 23rd. Yay, we get to have one. Principals Day, April 30th. And in case you didn't know, there's 2 Principals Days. One Principal Day is for the staff to celebrate, and one is for the parents to celebrate. I learned that as a PTO leader, so just educating you on that. And then Nurses Day, May 6th. And then our regular board meeting, May 11th.
All right, thank you. Very well done. 10.02, this is where we do a report of meetings, so any board members who had an opportunity for any state parent group or other meetings that they did either virtually or in person, now's the opportunity to share highlights with us. Kathy?
I was just going to say how wonderful the Lindbergh Leaders Banquet and all the information, so thank you, Tara and Beth, for doing that, and whoever else was involved. That was outstanding, even though we couldn't be in person.
Mike?
I would say kudos on that too. It was just terrific, despite these limitations we have, having to be virtual. And speaking of which, the end of March, it was March 28th, our region, the St. Louis Regional Group, we call Region 7 by number, of the Missouri School Boards Association, had our annual regional meeting. Now, Sorry. So again, we met virtually, not as, we didn't have as many in attendance as we have in years past, unfortunately, but understandably. So we announced the recipient of this year's Belcher Scholarship Award that Region 7, awards a student from one of our 26 school districts in our region. This year it was a young man from Fox City School District. And, as I guess some of you may know, I've acted as chair of our region for the past couple of years now. This will be my last year doing that, so I'm stepping back from that responsibility. One of my colleagues on the committee, Veronica Morrow-Reed, she's from Riverview Gardens. She'll be stepping forward into my position, which I'm totally okay with because she and I go way back. We actually attended high school together, so she's kind of like an old friend in a way. So, but I'm stepping back from that. So, but what I did want to announce too was that we're still continuing now in person with MSBA's Spring Great Ideas Summit. And that's going to be held June 18th to 19th in Springfield, again in person. And for Megan, this is something, You may want to, consider attending as a new board member because we're all members of MSBA as a board. And also, we're going to have what is typically our October annual meeting in November this year in Kansas City. So November 4th through 7th, and that will also be in person. So that's what we're all planning for. So that's my update. Thanks.
Thank you, Mike.
I attended the legislative day yesterday on Monday, which it was great to get back in the groove and kind of hear what's going on in Jeff City. So I just wanted to share a few things. I know we've got a lot of things coming up, so I'll make it brief, but we had an excellent panel of 7 senators who are pro-public education. So it was really nice to hear from them. And every one of them said, we want to hear from you. We want to hear from you school board members. We want to hear from you parents. We want to hear from you staff. We want to know how some of the bills that we're looking at will affect you. They did not want to hear from the superintendents because they hear from them all the time. So Tony, you're out, but everybody else is in.
I'm fine with that.
And that's my funny for there. Anyway, what's coming up and something that I guess we need to be concerned about is charter schools. They're pushing this hard for charter school expansion. Now, St. Louis already has charter schools. They're not as well advertised as in some areas of the country, but we do have them. And the reason they're being pushed is parents have said they want a choice. We've been through COVID, we've been through the public school, we want a different choice. And so I would just caution everyone to really check out what a charter school is about. I would ask that you follow the money because charter schools typically are not designed by another school district. It's actually funded by organizations, companies. So follow the money when you're checking that out. A few things that they did a comparison for us, and I'm happy to share with whomever afterward that would like to come and see it. But with charter schools, you have to fill out an application. And on that application, you'll put down the dollar, your income amount for the year. Charter schools do not support any students with special needs. They don't do any interventions. They also we're accountable through the MAP test. They are not. And they can open and close at any time. So there's been examples given to us from Arizona where a school was open and the kids were dismissed, the students were dismissed over Christmas. And then when they got ready to come back to school in January, the school was not open. So I would just encourage you to check out a little bit about charter schools and become educated. The other piece is the voucher system, and these are called ESAs, and it's called a scholarship. It's really not it is a scholarship for sure, but people can vote. They can choose where they want their funds for public schools to go. So they can take it from us and they can give it to someone else. In Arizona, the representative that talked to us, he has 4 different voucher systems that they track, and in Ohio, they have 5. And so for every year, there becomes another voucher and another voucher and another voucher. And it's a spaghetti mess. I couldn't even understand everything they were talking about. And each state regrets doing this at this point. So again, be educated on those things if it ever would come to a vote or if you want to speak out against it. And lastly, they're going to pass something. So the senators were thinking possibly it's going to be a gas tax or it's going to be an internet tax. And then maybe we won't get into the charter expansion or into the vouchers. So we have 5 weeks for the drama to ensue, and then in 5 weeks we'll know. But the point is they want to hear from you. So don't be afraid to write to them and contact them. Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Very important topic. Thank you. Now we'll move to 10.03 announcements. We have none. So 10.04, review of the upcoming Board of Education meeting agenda. So back to you. Yeah, the meeting. Yes.
Okay, so the next meeting is April 27th at 4:30, and this is our special workshop. And this is where we look at the tax rate, right, Joelle? Budget and tax rate, yep. And then our next regular meeting is May 11th at 7 o'clock.
Perfect. Thank you. 10.05, board appointments, we have none. So 10.06 is the MSBA report, which we've not seen in person for a while, but we will now watch the April MSBA report.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Missouri School Boards Association's board report for the month of April. We thank you for the opportunity to share some news and information during a few minutes of your board meeting. We begin with a look at the American Rescue Plan. That federal law will provide nearly $2 billion in COVID-19 relief money to Missouri, 90% of which will be available directly to Missouri school districts through the Title I formula. Department of Elementary and Secondary Education Deputy Commissioner Dr. Carrie Monzis tells us the money can be used for a wide range of purposes.
Lots of different things to support students, whether it's addressing learning issues from time missed related to COVID, supporting schools in the technology areas, professional development for staff, mental health supports for students and staff, quite a wide range of supporting areas that schools can utilize. And essentially it's any area that's in response to the COVID pandemic is fairly broad and included within these provisions.
Monzis adds there's a strong emphasis on addressing student learning loss that may have occurred this school year.
There are a wide range of responses a district may have for learning loss. Summer school is a perfect example. Many of our schools already have summer school programs, but to the extent we can expand and involve more students, not only in this coming summer, but potentially the following summers, there is that possibility. There's extra learning time potentially during this regular school year that could be supported with this. So again, it's a district tailored need for that. And I will mention also that this latest round of relief does include a 20% requirement or reserve for each district to apply to learning loss activities.
School districts also can use the money for Wi-Fi hotspots and devices for students without internet connections for remote learning. Funds under the American Rescue Act will be available through the Elementary and Secondary School Emergency Relief Fund, or ESSER. The lack of internet access for many students and families continues to be an issue in Missouri. A bill before the Missouri legislature would require the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education to issue an annual report on the number of students throughout the state without adequate internet access at home. A school board member from the Mountain View Birch Tree School District in southern Missouri, Shelley Mantell, testified before the House Elementary and Secondary Education Committee on the bill, and she said internet access is a serious issue in her part of the state.
What I'd really like is that internet is a utility. We have lots of students in our, not lots, but we have students in our district that don't have running water, don't have electricity for various reasons, but most of them have running water and electricity, which is imperative to a healthy lifestyle. So internet now is that third utility. If we don't have access to internet, we can't educate our children.
Mantell is an occupational therapist who works with students in 9 school districts in southern Missouri. She also serves as a member of the MSBA Board of Directors. If you were elected to your school board for the first time this month, welcome to school board service. Missouri law requires all school board members to receive 18.5 hours of training within their first 12 months of service. MSBA's CBM Essential Board Member Training fulfills this requirement and provides the foundation for becoming an effective board member. The training is free for all new board members. Check the MSBA website for a schedule of the in-person training opportunities along with registration information. Make plans now to attend MSBA's Igniting Great Ideas Summit, June 18th through 19th in Springfield. It's a great opportunity to participate in valuable leadership sessions and to connect with your colleagues from school districts throughout the state. Also, be sure your board is represented at the June Delegate Assembly to be held in conjunction with the Great Ideas Summit. Delegates will be electing state officers for the coming year at that meeting. The nominating committee is proposing a slate of officers for consideration, including a candidate for president-elect and a candidate for vice president. Video interviews with the candidates are posted on the MSBA website. And if your school district is interested in making a presentation at the 2021 MSBA Annual Conference this fall, you can now submit your proposal. The request for a presentation form is available on the MSBA website. The deadline for submitting your proposal is May 14th. The 2021 Annual Conference is set for November 4th through 7th in Kansas City. That's it for this edition of the MSBA Board Report. Thanks for allowing us to have some time at your board meeting, and so long from Columbia.
All right. 11.0, we have special reports. This is where Cabinet gives us updates on the advisory meetings, committee meetings and such that were held. So Joelle, we'll start with you with facilities and finance.
Okay, our finance meeting is held the Thursday before every board meeting. So we met last Thursday, and at the last meeting we did go over tax rates because that's high on priority right now. We did get our estimated assessed valuation growth from St. Louis County. They provide that in reassessment years. We also talked about a meeting we had with the St. Louis County assessor. All of the St. Louis County districts met on that day to just discuss the assessed valuation rates. And so it sounds like preliminary data wasn't as good as we wanted it to be probably. There will be some adjustments in the commercial and personal property when we get our final rates in August. So as always, we have to set our revenue before we really know what it's going to be on. And then we did recognize Karen because she serves on that committee and will be missed. So I'll be looking for a new member for the finance committee. And we went over all of the board items, which were contained in several bids, and also has a donation on there. If you guys did not look, there's a really good donation from a parent on our donations this month, and we talked a lot about that. So, and then our facilities planning meeting, we actually have our last meeting of the month next week, or the year next week. We meet 3 times prior to December to try to get capital projects for the ensuing school year on the board. And so we'll meet next week to go over how much those are costing and where we're set. We also have our final study from Perkins and Will. It's the equity study on campuses, and our advisory committee will get a copy of that. And so will the team that starts next year.
All right, thank you. Brian, Human Resources?
The HR committee did not meet in April, but we are scheduled to meet on May 6th.
All right, thank you. And then Tara, Student Life, Technology, and Teaching and Learning.
And of those, only one met because of spring break last month. So our Teaching and Learning Board Advisory met, and as part of our curriculum revision cycle, we're in the research year for social studies, business, art, and PE. So we garnered feedback from committee members in order to help us set the pace and the direction for revision in those 4 areas. That revision process officially kicks off in June with our teachers identifying big ideas and direction of priority standards in those areas. And then Student Life meets this week, and then Technology meets next week, and then we have our final Teaching and Learning Board Advisory at the beginning of May.
Perfect, thank you. We'll move to 9.0, and this is the citizen comments regarding, 12.0. Flipped the wrong page. All right. We'll have to hold off for a minute. 12.0, action items by consent. We do have items 12.01 to 12.09. Would anyone like to remove any of those items for individual consideration? All right. Hearing none, may I have a motion to approve action items 12.01 through 12.09 as presented by consent?
So moved.
Motion by Kathy, second? Second by Christy. Okay. Any discussion or questions?
Thank you for the public gift to Kennerly, which is on there. It's pretty amazing, so.
All right, we'll move to a roll call vote here. Mike Shamier, yes. Jennifer Miller,
Yes.
Christy Watts, Dr. Mike Tishless.
Yes.
Matt Alonso,
Yes.
Dr. Kathy Colick-Lorenz,
Yes.
and Megan Vetter. Okay, motion passes 7-0. 13.0 individual action items. We have 13.01, which is secure vegetables at Kennerly Elementary and Truman Middle School. Do we have any, Joelle? Okay.
We're presenting this project for your approval. The bids came in, and you can see in the board item, we received 4 bids on the project. This was one of the first bids that we have put out through our new vendor registry program, and we did get 152 views on the project, so that really shows that we're getting a competitive pricing on our projects. There were actually 15 vendors that downloaded the specs, and then 4 finally bid. Wachter, who also did our phase 1 security vestibules, won just by a small margin there. And if you guys approve this, we'll move forward with the contract tomorrow. This project, which is at Kennerly and Truman, will start as soon as school ends. Kennerly should be complete by the time school starts, but Truman is going to go a little bit into the next school year. So there'll be some not entry into the front of the building for a little while when school starts, but we're good at handling things like that. So if there's any questions.
Yeah, I'll just say this will complete the secure vestibule project. So these are the last 2 that we have to do. So all of our buildings now, and that was a big part of our Prop R. Obviously, the high school was the largest project, but it was also to get those secure vestibules in the rest of our school buildings. So this will complete that project. So and the price came in very competitive. Like Joelle said, the vendor registry we have, basically it puts all of our jobs out there for the public, any company to see, so they have access to that. So that will ensure that we are getting those competitive bids, and the bids came in great, a little under what we had projected, so. It was around 1.2.
And will these be finished for start of school next year?
That's a great question, Matt. So Kennerly, yes. Truman's going to have to put up with it for the first semester. We'll be done by semester. So we're actually putting a little addition on the front of Truman to be able to create what we want. We're actually creating just under the canopy at Kennerly. So in part, Joelle referenced our equity campus plan. Again, that's just a master facility plan of, where do we put those gyms that we need at the other buildings? And so Kennerly actually has part of their master plan, a bump out new entire front office area eventually, long range, whenever that chooses to happen. But yes, we'll get the Kennerly done this summer, but Truman will be through first semester.
Any other questions? Very important part of school safety. Do I have a motion to approve the secure entries at Kennerly Elementary and Truman Middle School in the purchase amount of $1,267,200?
So moved.
Motion by Mike, second.
Second.
Second by Matt. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion carries 7-0. 14.0 reports. We have 14.01. We have one for the record report, 14.0101. The Safety Program Emergency Response and Intervention Plan Program Evaluation. You can contact Dr. Sparks, I believe, if you have any questions or comments about that particular report. And we also have 14.02, which is the school start time, but I'll turn it over to you to discuss that.
I am happy to share our work. Before we begin the formal presentation, I just want to remind the board, similarly to our learning report earlier today at the board workshop, as we present this tonight, we have 2 audiences, the live audience for each of you here, and then also we're recording this so we can share this out with our families as well. So at this time, I am happy to talk about the recommendation that we are making through the School Start Times Task Force. A couple of years ago, when developing the district calendar that would require a later school start date for the school year, We also garnered interest in changing school day start and end times. A majority of our over 900 respondents to that survey showed an interest in changing high school start times specifically. And as a result of this feedback, we developed a compass goal to develop the school start times task force and research options for a shift in school start and end times during the school day. That work began for us last March. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Perfect, thank you. Today, you will hear from 4 of our School Start Times Task Force members in order of their presentation. We have Ellie Volkman, Lindbergh High School student, Scott Luchek, Lindbergh High School Athletic Director, Matt Seeker, elementary, middle school, and high school parent, and Patty Thomas, Truman Middle School teacher. At the conclusion of their presentation, we can answer any questions in order to provide the clarification that helps you in making a decision, which we will bring back to you at the May board meeting. So at this time, I welcome Ellie to join us. Next slide, please.
You have to sign in. Do I need to turn this on?
It should already be on.
I think the computer timed out.
It's green now. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Best laid plans for smooth recording.
Okay. Hello. Beginning with the end in mind, the School Start Times Task Force devised a plan to end with the most logical and effective proposal possible. We knew we needed to empathize with those who are currently affected by school start times, define the problem, come up with ideas, and develop a prototype. So that is what we did. Next slide. The most important part of solving any problem is understanding what the problem is. We began our research by empathizing with everyone affected by the school starting times, students, parents, and staff. We wanted to understand all aspects of the issue at hand before making any decisions about how to solve it. After the research, we developed a list of necessary improvements for the community regarding school start times. We need to improve sleep patterns. We discovered that for every 2 minutes of later start time, 1 minute of sleep is gained. And although this doesn't sound like a big deal, it definitely is, and it adds up. High school students are definitely not getting enough sleep, especially with the expectation to be involved in extracurriculars and participate in high-level courses. Our sleep is typically the first thing sacrificed. This lack of sleep can be detrimental to many different aspects of the students' lives. I can also attest to this. With a later start time, we would also increase academic outcomes and have a positive impact on safe driving. It's also important to note that other districts have implemented later starting times and have seen positive outcomes, and no studies discussed in the overview of research indicated a negative outcome for students when moving back start times. Next slide. The next step was to prioritize. We developed another list, we like lists, that outlines our priorities for creating a proposed solution. Number 1, efficient bus routes. We needed to ensure school-specific transportation issues were addressed in school schedules, for example, the Concord bus timing. Number 2, extracurricular activities. With the schedule right now, there's a substantial amount of downtime between the end of school and athletic games that leads to several other issues. We also need to ensure that practice and club meeting times would not be pushed too late into the evening. Number 3, secondary ends before elementary. We needed to ensure that this happened for transportation and supervision reasons. And number 4, Flyers Club staffing. We needed to ensure that Flyers Club times will allow for possible employee recruitment and retention. Next slide, please. So this is the final proposal. It is elementary from 8:55 to 3:45, middle from 7:45 to 2:45, high school from 8 to 3. And because we were in the process of testing bus routes, we sent these proposed times to the community for feedback in the survey, which will be discussed later in this presentation. But we did clarify that the times could shift 5 minutes based on transportation if it required more time. And one component of the elementary proposal was also the expansion of the school day by 10 minutes from what it is currently. This additional time aligns elementary instructional time each day to what happens at the middle and high schools already. So thank you, and now I will turn it over to Mr. Luchek to discuss the testing process.
Good job. Thank you, Ellie. With any change, there are challenges to be anticipated. Sperry and Truman share buses with the high school. In flipping the middle school and high school times, we discovered some possible timing issues with the bus routes. Test runs were completed to address these concerns and make adjustments to allow buses to be more efficient. With a major adjustment in districts such as start times, it was essential to get input from the Lindbergh community. A survey of students, parents, and staff from our elementary, middle, and high schools was conducted to provide data and feedback about making changes with district start times. Within the survey, the majority were in favor of not only making the proposed change, but also instituting it for the 21-22 school year. Next slide, please. There was a very strong showing of respondents in the Hanover survey as individuals from elementary, middle, and high schools took part. Across the district, there was a good representation with a mixture of students, parents, and staff that participated in the survey, totaling 3,627 individual respondents. This gave the task force a pretty clear picture of how the district feels collectively. Next slide, please. Within the survey, participants were asked if they would prefer the current schedule and/or the proposed schedule. 58% of the respondents found the proposed schedule appealing, as opposed to only 38% for the current schedule. If you add in the neutral responses for these two questions, the totals would be 70% that found the proposed schedule appealing and 60% for the current schedule. At this time, I will turn it over to Matt Seeker to discuss the preferences of timing for this change to take place.
Thank you, Scott. We discovered that the data overwhelmingly showed a preference to implement the schedule change in the 2021-22 school year. In fact, 90% students were in favor of making the change in 2021-22, and 93% of parents and staff were in favor of making the change in 2021-22. Drilling down in the data at the school level for timing again shows a remarkable preference to implement the schedule change in the 2021-22 school year, with 90% of elementary, 89% of middle school, and 95% of high school favoring the implementation of the next school year. Next slide. While students, parents, and staff are affected by the change in school start times, ultimately, the reason for the change is the benefit for our students. The student feedback we receive bears this out, with 75% of students seeing a positive benefit to their sleep schedules and 69% benefit in the impact on their academic performance, with parents and staff also acknowledging benefits in these areas. We also examined positive benefits to morning routines and method of transportation. These also showed agreement across students, parents, and staff on the positive effect of the start time change in these areas. Next slide. Although the overall response was overwhelmingly positive, there were some areas where concerns were raised. 60% of Lindbergh staff were concerned about the impact of later school end times with existing afternoon and evening activities. This was more pronounced with the staff at the elementary level. Some students at the high school expressed concern that the later end times would negatively impact their activities after school, causing them to start and then end later than normal. We discussed these concerns and believe we can alleviate these concerns in a couple different ways. For the elementary staff, our suggestion is to modify staff contract times to help alleviate this concern. Since making the final recommendation, we got clarity regarding the high school students' concern with their after-school sports and activities. Scott Luchak indicated that any impact would be minimal and possibly only to practice start times. Game schedules have already been modified due to other districts such as Rockwood implementing school start and time changes. Next slide. As we plan these changes, one of the areas where elementary families expressed a need is childcare. In fact, 39% of elementary families feel this change may require access to additional childcare. Some of this concern may be alleviated with the final recommendation, as the end of school times for the middle and high school will still allow older siblings to get home before the elementary schools are dismissed. We're also collaborating with Flyers Club to support these families' potential needs for before and after school care. Thank you for your time, and I will now turn our presentation over to our teacher representative, Patty Thomas.
Hello, good evening. Thank you so much, Matt. As you see, with over 1,000 different middle school and high school students respondents, we found that the Hanover survey results showed the majority of student responses were actually positive for a later school start time. This feedback was very important to our task force to see the student's perspective and the student's opinion in terms of a later school start time. Next slide, please. Now, the district has used Hanover several times as a third-party research company. And based on the results from this survey, we have recommendations from Hanover. With over 36,000 respondents, Hanover recommends these start times actually begin next school year for the 21-22 school year. And due to shifts in the school times, we actually see that Hanover recommends that we expand child care options for our families. We need to make sure that we have positive communication with our families and our community to make sure that they understand the why and the reasoning behind these particular recommendations. Next slide, please. So based on all the survey results in the various meetings from our lovely start time task force, it is our recommendations that the changes be made to the elementary and middle school and high school start times. As you do remember, the original middle school proposed time was from 7:45 to 2:45. Now, this time change did have to shift a little bit because of adjustments with the bus routes. So the middle school and high school will continue to share buses. And when we take the buses going from the two middle schools and merging them onto the one high school campus, the bus company indicated that they needed a little bit more time. So in our proposal, we actually will not recommend a change to the middle school start time, and it will remain as is from the 7:40 to 2:40 time. Based on the survey feedback, we also recommend that we implement these school start time changes to begin next year for the 21-22 school year. Next slide. We just want to thank you so much for listening to our proposal, and I want to thank you for the opportunity to work with this lovely task force to come up with your school start times for next year. If you have any questions, we would be happy to answer those for you at this time.
Thank you, Patty and Ellie and Scott and Matt. That was an excellent summary of the work that we've done over the past year.
Thank you, guys. Great presentation. Any questions? Yeah, I'm sure you can, if you have something between now and May.
Absolutely. So as I said, we'll be bringing this back to the board in May for an official vote. We are going to be sharing this presentation with our families and e-notes to ensure that everyone understands the conversation that we're having. I know that many families, obviously from the number of participants we had within the survey, were aware that this investigation was happening and we were having this conversation, but we have not been able to give them any specific direction on what that outcome has been since January. So we look forward to sharing that and answering any questions that might arise.
Just a quick question, and you may not have this in front of you, so maybe just research to bring back to us, and you may have already shared it with us, and I might have missed it. The school districts that surround us, and like the 22 school districts, not all 22 have to be on there, but start times of each level, can we just see a?
We do have that on one of our research documents. I don't have it right in front of me, but they do range significantly. Some start as late as 8:30. Some are starting as early as 7:30. As was referenced, some districts have made some intentional shifts to their start times to move to a similar schedule that we're looking at, the 8 to 3 for high school. And then other districts have gone through this process and have hit some barriers and have opted to not proceed. And so we used all of that research in our process, but I'll get that to you.
Thanks.
All right, thank you very much, and thank you to you four who presented. That was great information. Now we'll move to 15.0, which is indeed the citizen comments regarding non-agenda items. So just for your information, we will hear your comments at this time regarding topics that were not on the agenda. So when I call your name, please come forward, state your name, your full name, address, and the item that you wish to discuss this evening. And this is governed by Limburg's Board Policy BDDH-1, which outlines the guidelines for public comments. We ask that you keep your comments to 2 to 3 minutes with a maximum of 3 minutes for comments. And somebody from the district will respond to you following this meeting. We don't make public responses here at this meeting. And I apologize too if I don't get your name exactly correct, but we'll start with Bess Fitzmaurice.
Before that, our presenters, if you want to stay, great. If you want to go, you're free to go too as well. So thank you. I know you probably have homework, Ellie.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, go ahead, Bess.
Well, before you start that clock, I wanted to say thank you for the opportunity to speak, and thank you all for the service that you on the school board. I really appreciate it. It's a lot of work, and it's probably a thankless job. So anyway, I tried to make it 3 minutes, but it might be a little bit over 3, so forgive me. I recently learned that a new curriculum will be introduced in my daughter's 7th grade gym class that comes from the ideologically driven Southern Poverty Law Center, formerly known as Teaching Tolerance. The curriculum was renamed Learning for Justice, and it cleverly injects partisan indoctrination into lesson plans that sound relatively harmless. Who doesn't want justice, right? Embedded in the lessons, however, are ideas like intersectionality, which arise from critical race theory, or CRT for short. Some of these lessons are only somewhat offensive, but all of them insert just enough facts to look like a respectable resource, using positive words like diversity, equity, and inclusivity to mislead students and parents. CRT proponents judge only what they can see from across the room and rely on stereotyping people by placing them into groups based on immutable characteristics like race, gender, and ethnicity, then labeling those groups as oppressed or oppressors. No longer important is anything about the individual, neither his personality or how he treats people. So, in my family, for instance, my daughter, who was adopted from Guatemala and is Native American, would be labeled oppressed, while her parents, brother, and grandparents would be labeled oppressors, simply because we have European heritage. Martin Luther King Jr., in his I Have a Dream speech, called the words of our Constitution and Declaration of Independence magnificent, and their promise of equal rights was to all people. He believed in our country and in our nation's historic struggle to make that promise of equality a reality. He looked forward to the day when people would not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. Unfortunately, today, CRT adherents think Dr. King was wrong. One only needs to compare his words to those in the curriculum's lesson on intersectionality to see the contrast, or to the words of Robin DiAngelo's book, White Fragility, who thinks Dr. King's dream impossible and doesn't think human beings are capable of judging each other by the content of their character. I find this astounding that DiAngelo feels qualified to contradict Dr. King, a genius of social justice, and to school him on civil rights. Dr. King's philosophy was his belief in the sanctity of the individual and the amazing potential for goodness within all human beings. But not for DiAngelo, who has made a great deal of money peddling her contradictions and divisive ideology. She and CRT proponents want us to think of ourselves in exactly the opposite way that Dr. King dreamed of. We are allowing these intellectual seeds of this divisive ideology to be sown in our children's heads through this curriculum. Our district's pledge to the 4 C's, communication, collaboration, creativity, and critical thinking, should remain paramount. Teach students how to think, not what to think. I do not consent to the teaching of critical race theory or its building blocks in our schools, even in gym class, under the benign-sounding name Learning for Justice. Even if only one teacher is implementing this ideology, once introduced, it's only a matter of time until it's fully embraced. Then it's too late. I urge you to examine and adopt an alternative diversity inclusion program for teachers and students alike, one that actually fights racism and bigotry instead of spreading it, one that doesn't stereotype or shame people or place one group above the other.
So,
One that
Bess?
honors all those great Americans of all races who came before us and thought of themselves as something greater than just members of a group. They fought for real justice and paved the way for our society where we could be judged by the content of our character and not by any other yardstick. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Next, we have Paul Peterson, and just to remind everyone, if you're speaking on a topic that's already been discussed, we ask that you bring some new information or new perspective too. So, Paul?
Hi, we'll keep this real short. I'm just here to say I'm in total agreement with what Bess just said. I meant to prepare tonight, but one of my employees got scalded at work today, so I had to fill in for him, so I didn't really get to prepare much. But again, thank you guys for all the work you do. This is new for me. I've never sat in on one, but I consider this CRT as indoctrination, not education. This is telling kids how they have to think, and it's not encouraging them to be their own people. And we're getting this kind of thing shoved at us from so many different directions through our government institutions that it just doesn't seem like the place to be in school. Let's stick to math and all the good stuff that they need to know to get through their life. I mean, anyway, thank you so much, but I'm in total agreement with what she just said. Thank you.
Thank you. And as a reminder too, when you come to the podium, if you could state your name and address, and then the topic as well. That's all right. Next, Marilee Sawyer? Sauer? Sorry.
That's all right. I'm Marilee Sauer. I live at 9306 Queenston Drive, St. Louis, Missouri, 63126. Is that it? And Christy, I just, before I start speaking about my topic, when you talked, you said you were with a bunch of other board members and you guys were talking about the voucher system. And I was kind of upset to hear that there was nothing positive about vouchers, because there are some positive things. There are kids in failing schools, and I was sorry to hear just the negative side of it. So especially from a bunch of board members, because we should want our children to be educated, and it shouldn't matter where, right? And I don't think Lindbergh as a successful district should have any problems with vouchers, because the community wants to support Lindbergh. So I just, we want our kids here, you know? So there are failing school districts in Missouri, though, that could benefit, I think. The kids could benefit. So I'm also here tonight to express my disappointment with that Learning for Justice, also known as Teaching Tolerance curriculum. I did speak with Dr. Sparks about it. She kind of told me that the teachers can pretty much pick their lessons, right? There's no real limits within the district. There's no like list of curriculums or anything like that, or lessons that they can choose from. You had also said that you looked at it and you thought it wasn't radical as far as the way you were reading it. I actually disagree with that. I think these lesson plans, they were developed by the Southern Poverty Law Center, sorry. It is a radical group. You don't even need to know anything about them. You can just go right to this website, and the lessons are publicly available. You can look at them, you can read them, and I think you'd be shocked by them and the things that they want taught in schools. You know, to allow these kind of lesson plans to be taught in our schools, I think it'll upset a lot of people in the community, and I just don't think that's good for the school. I think it could create divisions within our community. And I think Lindbergh, I know, takes great pride in the community. I think if you're going to allow this, you're risking one of the very strengths that we have as a district. Curriculums from any extreme left or right group, I think, need to be avoided for this reason, especially in the political climate we have right now. I just don't think it's a good thing. I also think the administration should take some level of control and responsibility for you know, what teachers can pick and choose as far as curriculums go. Maybe an accepted list of sources, lessons, curriculums to choose from. Maybe make that publicly available. I also disagree with you know, what Tara and I talked about. I just don't think this is a good thing to use, because when you look at it closer, The teacher lesson strategies suggest purposely diverting discussion away from those students who comment that might have a shared experience that counters the lesson being taught. So it also diverts discussion away from those who may think or feel differently. So basically, it's limiting, as they call it, the marketplace of ideas within the classroom. I know I send my kids to school to learn and not to be brainwashed into an agenda. So I just disagree completely that this should not be allowed to be used. So once again, I would just say some sort of acceptable list of sources, so we don't have to go through this for each time this happens. I just think it creates problems within the community. Some sort of accepted list gives teachers a wide variety to choose from, something that's publicly available so parents can look and see and know more about what's being used in the classroom and be more informed about their child's education. And also, I think, something that puts some level of responsibility on the administration to ensure we have this proper balance that we need in our schools. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, Mackie Randleman.
Hi, Mackie Randleman, 9859 Sappington Road, 63128. I'm sorry, this is not my mother language, so I might take more than 3 minutes, although I timed myself at home. I'll try. I have 4 Lindbergh flyers in this district. In the last month, I have been raising my concerns about the critical race theory, which has been introduced in our district. My concern is the indoctrination of false ideology in school. Now that it is already happening, I am here to clarify that I do not tolerate this in my children's education. 2 weeks ago, all high school students took part in an identity activity during academic networking. My child was not told that she could opt out from it. No information came to the families before, so we could not ask to be dismissed in advance. It is not right for the school to tell my children how to identify themselves. The students were given a list. The list included gender, race, socioeconomic status, marital relationship status, family size, ethnicity, religion, language, parent or childless, sexual orientation, career. Seeing this list, my child chose to define herself with her birth nationality, which is not American. It is the outcome of this activity that immigrants will feel the need to fill out as outsiders, not as Americans. I understand that this activity was meant to allow students to feel comfortable talking about themselves. There are other ways to do it. The school can build up their common ground. The school should be a place of unity. Instead, the school is encouraging emphasis on differences. This hidden guidance has caught my daughter. It made her identify as another country's citizen. Why should the school keep me and my children as immigrants? Didn't we become part of one nation? When you ask my children to define the race or ethnicity, my children need to choose a side. We are an interracial family and coming from diverse backgrounds. Have you ever thought that there are countless families in our society that this kind of definition would destroy the family unit? Is it right for the school to place a foot in personal family history? Furthermore, according to US Department of Education, K-12 educational institutions are guided to avoid the isolation of race according to the Civil Rights Act of 1964, Titles 4 and 6, as well as the Equal Protection Clause of the 14th Amendment of the Constitution. Identity identity is formed slowly and personally. It is the core of personality. It is the foundation of how we navigate our lives. Let it be personal. Please honor each family's right to guide our children in our unique and personal way. I urge the Board of Education to reconsider its emphasis of diversity, but rather turn its attention to unity and how to respect every family and encourage sympathy for our neighbors. Thank you.
Thank you.
If I may, I would like to submit my statement and also the printout from the government.
Next, we have Kate Dragon and Diane Dragon.
Diane, you can pull the mic.
I was
You
just
can
gonna
hold
say,
it.
I
Yeah.
think I'll hold it for her. Okay, you go.
My name is Kate Dragon, and I am 8 years old and go to 2nd grade in Crestwood. I have dyslexia like 2 of my brothers. My mom knew right away before I even started school that I would need extra help to learn to read. Because we knew early, she fought hard for me to get a structured literacy program called Wilson. I love my Wilson teacher, and as you can see, I am learning to read. I can read better than most 2nd graders already, and I am only halfway through the program. All kids deserve to be identified early and receive help before they feel like they are failing. My mom is part of a group of people trying to pass a law that will require schools to help all kids with dyslexia get appropriate reading programs. She told me that you are against the bill, failing to support the bill for Reading Success Plan and for structured literacy is failing to support the 1 in 5 kids like me. Every night, my mom spends time working to make sure other kids get the help they deserve to read. I am proud of her, but I want her to have that extra time just to be my mom. Please stop fighting against changes that need to happen for all kids to read in this district and in this state. I am proof that early identification and intense structured literacy instruction works. Thank you.
Okay. Diane?
Thanks, Kate.
Thank you. Diane Dragon, 9036 Middlewood Court. The bills that Kate was speaking on is Senate Bill 54 and House Bill 368. Senate Bill 54 has already made it through committee 9-0. House bill was heard last week. This is a bill that sets up reading success plans for all children that are struggling to learn to read in their school districts. For those that test positive for dyslexia on the screener or have a diagnosis of dyslexia, it allows them to get structured literacy interventions, the kind of intervention that Kate is getting through the Wilson program, and the kind of intervention shown to work for these children. It was disappointing to learn that superintendents, including our own, does not support this bill, but I was very happy that the House and the Senate appeared to have a support for this, and I do hope that it is going to get through. I do understand that Lindbergh is making some of the changes that are in this bill, offering some structured literacy interventions. On paper, we are making some necessary changes. We have added in some phonemic awareness in most classes, most days. We have added in some phonics, but you'll be hard-pressed to find Sunday, the program chosen, being implemented in any classroom daily with fidelity. And we continue to have substantial problems with SSD, the entity tasked with working with our struggling readers. I volunteer on a regular basis to attend meetings with parents. Every time I attend, SSD brings an area coordinator into that meeting. And routinely, they tell their staff that they do not have to use fidelity with the programs that are chosen. Just 2 weeks ago, they tried to take Kate's Wilson programming away, and then they tried to lower it to an hour a week instead of the 3 hours, which is minimum fidelity. When I pointed that out, that that was not with fidelity, they didn't care. They said that that was their recommendation. Now, ultimately, we worked it out, but they've made it clear they're going to continue to fight to take her programming away, a program that's working. Lindbergh and SSD have chosen Spire for most kids that are struggling readers in this district. The area coordinators are routinely telling parents and teachers they do not and will not use that program with Fidelity. Spire requires no more than 3 children to be in a group. Those children are to be matched needs, not mixed needs, and Spire recommends 60 minutes a day. Just yesterday, I watched them place a child into a group of 6 of mixed needs for 30 minutes a day. That's happening routinely in Concord. I've heard groups as large as 9. And the area coordinator says, we don't need to follow Fidelity. Those are just recommendations, not requirements. You are failing those kids, and you are failing those teachers. Those teachers want to teach these kids to read. You're giving them 6 or 9 kids in half the time the program is designed to be used, and asking them to teach basic reading, reading fluency, reading comprehension goals, all in that same 30 minutes. It's not fair. It's not fair to the kids or the teachers. I understand you're getting more administration, a Lindbergh SSD coordinator of sorts. We don't need more layers of administration. We need more teachers working with these kids that are trained in the programs, and we need somebody making sure those programs are used as they're designed. Thank you.
Thank you. Final speaker, and I'm sorry, I can't read the last name, Ruthie? Thank you.
Hi, I'll be real quick. Thank you guys so much. I can tell you love your students, you love your families, and you're so caring. I just wanted to share one thing about the Learning for Justice website. I spent about 3 hours reading on their website, and from what I could tell from their curriculum, it's fomenting racism and keeping groups apart than helping our students learn together and love each other. For an example, on their website, they interviewed a teacher and asked her, who's part of this curriculum building, how do you see white supremacy showing up in curriculum and instruction today? And this is how she responded. This is on their website. It looks like this overwhelming sense of urgency to meet particular deadlines that don't necessarily speak to actual student growth. It's like, well, we have to cover this book because that's what's on the test, and we have more. It's about quantity over quality. Imagine if you're a white student or a black student or Asian student hearing that deadlines and curriculum decisions are white supremacy. This is not going to help the students in your classrooms or your teachers deal with systemic racism that does exist. So I just wanted you to consider that. Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you to everyone for coming forward tonight and addressing the board, and you will receive a response from the district. So that moves us to 16.0, which is recess. We've already conducted our executive session, so there's no need to recess. So we will move on to 18.0, which is adjournment. May I have a motion to adjourn regular meeting number 1530?
So moved.
Motion by Mike, second.
Second.
Second by Kathy. This is a roll call vote. So Mike Chamay, yes. Jennifer Miller?
Yes.
Christy Watts?
Yes.
Dr. Mike Tishless?
Yes.
Matt Alonso?
Yes.
Dr. Kathy Kellogg-Lorenz?
Yes.
And Megan Vetter. Limerick Schools Board of Education regular meeting number 1530 is now adjourned.